Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It is usually said that every country deserves the type of leadership it gets, the most common understanding being that the people owe it to themselves to elevate the very best among them at every point in time to manage their affairs. As Nigerians pause to ponder over their own national odyssey since the attainment of independence 62 years ago, how many people among them can confidently say that the leadership selection process has served the nation well? And to what extent has the political class contributed to Nigeria's current struggles with development? Senator Ayo Arise is a former national lawmaker and currently member of Nigeria's ruling political party, the All Progressives Congress. He joins us now to speak on these issues. Good morning, distinguished Senator. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Good to have you join us today.
Good morning.
Thank you. All right. Congratulations. Nigeria is 62, and I think that we should start on that note, even though a lot of people may disagree that there is really no cause for celebration. But in Abuja, in Gombe, almost in all the states of the Federation, we saw celebration here and there. Even in Borno State, first time in 12 years. How will you assess Nigeria at 62? We know what the problems are. We know what the issues are. We even know why we may not need to celebrate. But to you, sir, do you think that there's a reason to celebrate at all? And if there is, what will we be celebrating at 62?
Well, thank you very much. I believe that we have a lot of reasons to celebrate. Even merely taken off from the perspective of your last guest, I believe Nigeria continues to be work in progress. And I think that based on some data and statistics, Nigeria continues to improve in so many ways, in trying to lay a foundation that will continue to build upon, for future leaders and for the future generation. For example, we are not paying enough attention to the fact that we are now developing a database of Nigerians. Everybody is now compared to have a national identity number, so we can identify ourselves. We'll be able to know how many people we need to feed per local government, per state, or throughout the nation. So our budget now we begin to have some meanings as to why or what we are planning for. And again, the ability for us to identify ourselves is a key factor in finding out who the criminals are. Have they been adequately punished? Do we know who these kidnappers are? Look, thanks to the current Minister for Communication and of course, DG of NMC, we are now tied to our phone numbers. Now, when you look at the number of phone numbers we have in the country, it's not very clear, based on the registration so far, that a person could be carrying 3, 4, 5 telephones. So it does not really determine. The fact that we have about 195 or plus telephone lines does not actually add up to the fact that we're about 195 people or 250 people, whatever the estimates are. Because right now, before this current government came in, I believe we had less than 15 million people on the database of NMC. Today, we have close to 100 million people registered. And so once we know where we are, people are not looking at some of the achievements of this administration. Our development will be anchored on the fact that we know the number of Nigerians, we know the number of foreigners, we know the number of resident people, and we know our females population, we know the males. So this constitutes a background for future development. That is just a starting point. We can celebrate first that we are all very much alive. And of course, following what the former speaker said on the issue of development, yes, we have challenges in the power sector. So I believe this is an opportunity for the incoming government and the incoming president to develop and add more value, where the previous government did a whole lot in terms of credibility to INEC. And the current people have added some value. This president has signed the new electoral law. Now, the next thing we are looking at is whoever is coming would ensure that electronic voting is implemented in this country within maybe the first 1 or 2 years. But that is not even one of the major challenges, but some argument about the fact that do we have electricity or telephone in some rural communities? Can we implement this? This now goes back to the fact that without power, there is very little we can do. Very little. Now, it's now a must that this government, like we have been shouting, must do decentralization. And decentralization would also mean that state governments, private sector can build power plants, they can generate power, they can distribute power. If there is anything that is holding us down in terms of industrial growth, it is the power sector. Now, we know that every government from Obasanjo to Buhari, they've tried their bit, but it's still very, very disappointing. That we cannot get the power sector correctly. So whoever is coming to become our president, which I believe will still be APC, anyway, we look at it because the structures are there, and in a way, you can say they have done this, and they have not done this, done that, and all. So, but in aggregate, the areas of success can be no less than about 60–65%. We know that there is no magic about a development. We know the issue of corruption, how it's threatening our development, our foundation. What has this government done? In a way, we have seen some improvement. It is not enough, but this continues to be a work in progress. And I believe that once the APC continues to build on this foundation that is already laid, we would have cause to rejoice more every year that we say, okay, we've had some improvement. It's not perfect. It's not total. And don't forget, we have limited resources. But we've had challenges in the area of the Naira exchange rate, which of course is very worrisome for everybody. But you look at it that our population continues to grow, and our development in the areas of industry still continues to be challenged by lack of power. Because buying diesel, look at the cost of diesel. I don't know whether the diesel people are still making money because I don't buy anymore. I've gone to solar panels. Now, but the problem is how many people can put solar in their homes. It's expensive. So you look at it that what are we doing for the common man in this country? We need to decentralize power generation. And of course, the green energy is the way to go now. But if we give licenses, and let the states appoint people or companies to provide power, the universities can set up power generation plants. I believe some of them are already doing it. But these are things that are no-brainers, Senator, continue to lack. Yes.
Senator, one of the high points of this administration, the Buhari administration, is that it has passed a law that allows states to generate their own power. The question shouldn't be, let's allow them. The question should be, what's delaying states, from tapping into this landmark achievement that has, devolved power to, in terms of power generation and distribution? That ought to be the question, don't you think so?
Well, you are correct, but I am not sure that even if the act says states can generate power by themselves, I don't know of any state, but I remember that Lagos State in the days of Tinubu, we had this the Aaron situation where they wanted to set up private power generating plants. Now, I don't know if the state have taken on that responsibility. But I believe many of the states too are challenged in terms of resources. So if you give people to generate, even if it is 5 kVA or 10 or 20, some states will do with about maybe 40, but that is even huge. So if Nigeria right now, we are still under maybe it's 4,000 or something, and South Africa is at about 40,000, and many other countries there. That is when the industries can develop. If the licenses are already there, which unfortunately I did not familiarize myself with the fact that the states can already start building their own generating plants. But most of the challenges, when you leave something again in the hand of, solely in the hand of government, it becomes an issue. If you give the private sector the same opportunity, and let me not go too deep into that because I'm not sure whether this act covers the private sector as well. But the next question will be, what are the terms, of engagement? What are the conditions laid there for you to be able to generate electricity? But I think it should be something that you can decide as a businessman that today I'm looking at my community, I want to develop a power generation plant, and I'm able to buy the equipment and start. Now, I understand you still have to log on to the national grid. Maybe it's part of the act, but I've not really done much in terms of looking at the conditions set out for this power generation. But I believe whatever it is, whatever will make it possible, and whatever will make it easy, and convenient and affordable for people to set up such generating plants should be looked at now or by the next administration. All right,
Senator Arise, we got you on that. I'm not sure if we heard you correctly earlier, but it appears that you had alluded quite confidently to what party will take over power next year. But on that note, let's take a look at the political status quo. Now, after years of civil democratic rule, many would say that the promised dividends of democracy in the form of improved welfare and security of lives and property, for the most part, still remains elusive. What is your take and outlook on this opinion?
Oh, well, I believe, by and large, that we are very slow, but we continue to make progress. Within the civilian administration, you will see that at least our democracy is thriving, and criticism to make the government do better freedom of speech is very much alive in the country. You cannot, I've not been hearing that somebody, because he has said this, said that, is now getting locked up. I believe those are some of the social elements that we had in the past. Those things, we have freedom to say the government is not doing this, the government is not doing that. You can say it publicly, and nobody is going to be running after you because you have criticized the government. I think that is an improvement in a way, and that is one of the dividends of democracy, the fact that we can challenge our leaders to do better. And that is why this election, this coming election, is going to be a very competitive election, because now everybody is being challenged. What are you bringing to the table? We are looking at the antecedents, and we are looking at what is this man likely to do, that he has done in the past that we're impressed with. So some of these are things that we are looking at in totality to ensure that Nigeria gets the leader that it deserves in this coming election. For us, I'm not about campaigning, but the statistics are obvious. When you look at the fact that currently every ward, every local government, every state has numbers in respective parties. And these are the people that we call the grassroots. These are the ones that will deliver who the next leaders or the next leader will be. And so on the basis of that, that is why I feel very confident that based on what is on the ground in Nigeria today, And the little effort, well, of course, we can say we've had a lot of security challenges. I have been a victim of kidnapping in the past. And, but right now, many of them are being caught. Their leaders are being caught. And we read in the papers that, yes, many of them are being tried and sentenced. It's an improvement. If we do not have the improvement, it will be difficult for us to live in this country. Now, this improvement is the one that I'm saying. APC that has been able to come this far will continue to build on some of this improvement in our social problems. Now, it's not that I'm not really saying that because we are not appointing the next president, people will have to vote for the next president, but what is on the ground favors the APC fully, as we speak today.
All right. Now you say what is on the ground favors the APC. As you know, campaign season is officially on.
Yes.
And as you may have seen yesterday, October 1st, we witnessed a groundswell of support for the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, characterized by street marches across different parts of the country. Now, as an APC member, are you worried? And should we be expecting something similar from the APC anytime soon?
Well, thank you. Peter Obi, yes, is done very well. I mean, I remember when Ross Perot was running in the US and he was making waves everywhere. But when the election came, it was very clear that there are a few things that you do need, to win a national election. For example, I've had elections 2, 3, or 4 times. So I know what it takes. And what it takes is that, look, on the day of the election, your people who are party card-carrying members and many of them are occupying some positions. They want to defend that position. They want to work to make sure. If you are a local government chairman, you want to work to be sure that you deliver your local government. If you are a state governor, you want to work to deliver your state. So these are the few challenges, but I see that the Labour Party under Peter Obi has actually been making some waves. So to say that one is not worried is to just wave any opponent aside. No, we are working to ensure that Peter Obi, yes, does not come close in terms of the outcome of the election. Because that is why there is campaign, and that is why people will have to vote. It's your ability to convince the grassroots people. If we are talking of the intellectual discussion, or the elites of the country, or those who are totally in the social media, if we run the election, then we probably will say we know where the result is tilting. But those are not the people that will vote. When elections come, you will now discover that. And that is why we have to educate ourselves and the public. Because some people now already believe that, Peter Obi has won the election on paper. And if the election result now comes and they see something, they will begin to shout, maybe it's a foul play. No, elections don't work that way. Elections are, I will stay in my own polling unit. I will win for my party. And ditto most of the leaders. And that is the way it works. So if it's just a question of, and I believe with this kind of outing, if Peter Obi joins the APC, then the chances that, and the shot for the presidency becomes a lot easier. If you are in a PDP, it still becomes a lot easier. But to build the groundswell of support from the grassroots is a little bit very difficult. And that is why we are saying it's not that Peter Obi is not a good person, but it's the fact that we have candidates. The APC has a giant as a candidate. The PDP has somebody who had been vice president before, who had canvassed across the country with a party that already has a structure. So the real battle on the ground is really between the APC and the PDP. And APC will win because right now we have more than enough supporters on the ground who would ensure that we go to the polls and vote for a candidate and vote for the party. Don't forget that it's this same APC that is giving trader money. It's this same APC that is doing all those social support programs. It's difficult for you to take somebody away and say, oh, I want to go and vote for uncertainty. Maybe I will lose these things that I'm getting right now. These are some of the things that make APC stand at a serious advantage to win the election. And of course, our candidate, like I said, has done very well in his previous assignment. As governor of Lagos State, he is a reference point. And as a leader, he has the resilience. And you can say, you know, the fact that the determination that this is what he wants to be. And when you look at his background, his training, I mean, his sojourn in Deloitte, and, you know, and his sojourn in Mobile, in Aramco, in all those places, the corporate experience. This is what we are looking for in governance. And that is this is the very first time that such a candidate would be having a ticket to be the leader of the president of the country.
All right, Senator. Well, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of the obedient folks will pick on you because you seem to, your preference is still the old order in terms of how elections are won. But my point to you, which I believe is the sort of a thing that people will raise with you, is that if the old order was that formidable, maybe your party would not have lost Osun election, which was the last governorship election. And that if old order works, maybe the example of what happened in Kenya, where a certain vice president came out of the old order and defeated the political hegemony in that country. You know, the Uhuru Kenyatas of this world, you know, and the Raila Odingas of this world. So people in Nigeria are seeing such examples, and they are saying that it is doable. And when you say that those who are on social media are not the ones that will win elections, are the social media people the ones who came out yesterday in Lagos State, in all the parts of the Federation, to say that they believe in a particular cause? This for me is not about Obi, but this for me is about, are you aware that things are changing and that there is a new political currency as far as electioneering is concerned? It looks to me like if this is the position of the APC, you are still well stuck in yesterday's ways of winning election between the so-called grassroots and the youth that the obedient movement is bringing on board. And therefore, what will be your challenge to what looks to me like a very formidable new approach to electioneering that the obedients are bringing on the table, to the table?
Well, like I said earlier, in terms of galvanizing the youths and bringing about some awareness, the obedient people, they've done very, very well. And but I want to tell you that voting is completely different from the social media writing. For those who will vote, the old women, even the young women, many times before the election, you will be in your house, they will tell you, look, this is the place we want to go. And this is the place you should vote for. And these are the reasons. Now, I am not against things changing, but somebody can bring about that change. When you look at the old order in America, for example, at a point, they wanted something to change, and they got Trump. Now, they saw the difference now. They have Biden. And when you talk of quality of life, what the people are getting under Biden is not comparable to Trump. even many of the previous governors. Somebody came in and said, okay, I'm looking at all these students of this country. I'm forgiving their loans. Now, if he had not been able to experience that at close quarters, he was a vice president and a senator for many, many years, it will be difficult for him to understand where the shoe pains, generally. There is no doubt in my mind that, yes, we have a challenge. We cannot wave obedient just with a wave of hand and say, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters. So we are working, and part of the work, you discover that we know who and who to talk to. If you look at the number of students in this country, and you look at the population that we have in Nigeria, you'll discover that, yes, these guys, they have influence, they can go some miles, but not to the extent of defeating this. So you mentioned the former VP, I think that was the VP to
Uhuru Kenyatta.
Kenyatta, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He's now the president. He's now the president of Kenya.
He had not. Yes, if he had not run.
Yes.
Under the ruling party in Kenya, as we're having all these praises, it would be difficult for him.
He didn't run under the ruling party.
That structure.
He didn't run under the ruling party. It was a coalition. It was a coalition of different parties that got him in.
So it was just picked from. I thought, well, maybe I got it wrong. I thought it was the vice.
He didn't even have the endorsement of his principal, the president of Kenya.
To run.
Was he a vice president?
He was. Yes, he was.
But was he a vice president?
Yes, he was.
Oh, okay. So that's what I thought. I thought I was. Yes. So if he was the VP and he ran, and of course, if you are talking about endorsement, but from what I was reading, the incumbent actually supported him during the election.
Not at all.
So I don't know.
Not at all. The incumbent supported Raila Odinga.
He did this?
Yeah. He supported Raila Odinga, but maybe we should focus.
Maybe
we should focus on Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay, the former opponent.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. No, I'm not saying.
But are you aware, Senator, that INEC says that for this election coming, youths constitute 71% of eligible voters, and you seem to be a bit dismissive of the power of the young voters. You say students, they may not be able to do it. You seem to prefer market women, the old people that you give direction to, that this is where the party is going. But from the statistics, from INEC, up to 71% of new voters are youth. And that may be the game changer.
Well, if 71% are youth, and you are sure that the 71% will vote for Obi, then I'll say
I have not said so.
I have no argument, but
I have not said so. I'm just saying that youth will have, yes.
Yeah, I've just told you the practical things on the ground. For example, let's look at it this way. Unfortunately, my children don't live here, and they are not likely to vote because, they are not likely to vote. If they were here, and I'm in APC, and I convince them that, look, this is where we should go, even though they are youth. So do you imagine that I will not have, out of 3 of them, I will not have like 1 or 2 to vote the way I want them to? So it goes beyond the way we are looking at it now. People have the wield influence in their own local areas. And I keep on telling people, every politics is local. Now, it's the local people that would go to the polling unit. And I look at many of you over the elites. How many people will go to his or her village to go and convince people to vote? These are some of the challenges that a newcomer, so to say, would face when it comes to a national election. And if we're able to get this, because I believe that INEC has the machinery now to ensure that we have a free and fair election. And I believe people will vote. Some of them will not really vote their conscience, but they will vote the conscience of those convincing them as to where to go during an election.
All right, Senator.
And they will vote based on what have they benefited from, yes, in the past.
All right, Senator, but how prepared is your party, though? Like, as we speak, the inauguration of your party's presidential campaign council has been postponed indefinitely. Now, a few months ago, your party, at the last minute postponed its primaries before it finally held a week later. Then a placeholder VP was named before a substantive one was chosen. Don't you think that this gives the impression of an unprepared party? Already, Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, who is also the PDP vice presidential candidate, has urged his party to take advantage of this perceived lack of preparedness.
Well, let me say that I know Asiwaju from a distance, let's say, but I do discuss with him once in a while. He is a very organized person. If you are not organized, when you look at the product, his product as a political leader, what has he brought to the table as a game changer? Look at, there is hardly any of those that have worked with him that you cannot put in position to say, deliver this, deliver this, deliver that. Now, if everybody wants to be on the presidential campaign committee, it's difficult to blame them because people are looking for recognition that, oh, I've worked. Now, maybe whoever is putting the list together did not remember some of the key people in the party. This is the ruling party. So it's difficult to say, I want to have only 400 and something people. So the list would be modified. A number of people will be added, and the more the merrier. But those who will be the core people. It's not everybody that is in a campaign committee that would actually be up there, following Asiwaju around, in that perspective. So I think, yes, the party too, maybe they didn't get adequate input into the list, and so maybe the state governors did not get adequate input. And these are the people that will run the election. So if they say, okay, this is not comprehensive enough, and they're trying to look at it, I don't think that is a problem. It's something that will give them more strength to pursue this campaign and become victorious. So if, yes, the Delta State governors, they should take advantage of the fact that the presidential committee is not in place. Look at what is still going on. They are still unable to settle the issue of Wike and some of the other people that are aggrieved. So there is no party that is totally immune from some challenges here and there. And that is why we're all human. Now, my own issue on the next president is we're already seeing, being voiced out, some of the areas that would be addressed as quickly as possible. Now, like I have said now, for me, power is a major one. If the next APC president comes in and he cannot get us out of this darkness, this epileptic power supply for the first 2 years, then of course the people will begin to rethink. I say, okay, what the heck? It's the same. So, but we have not spoken about even our people. We are talking of obedience. We are talking about APC. We are talking about PDP, and we are talking about the parties. what about ourselves? What have we done in terms of making this country a better country? As a person, if you look back, what do you do in the comfort of your home or when nobody's actually watching you? Are you doing things to help the government? But when we keep on talking about this unabridged corruption, it's only this government that has been able to bring so many people, so many giants to book. That means they have made some progress beyond what some others in the past have been able to do. So for me, I have looked at the totality. Even if you bring God to Nigeria to come and rule, if you don't have a change of heart from those people who are running our, even the civil service, and you believe something can change, and you have to go to the ministry before you get things done, is a major headache. And you think bringing some, no, we need to make our minds up that the problem that we have in this country are from the people. We need to make sure that this corruption is, people desist from it through punishment, because we cannot stop it in one day. But once you know that somebody has committed an offense, report the person. Let us make sure that we send the person to where he belongs, in the prison. But we need the judges to do the work, and we need those. We need some of those people who at least are willing to ensure that they do not do what is wrong when they're supposed to do what is right. So it's politics. Yes, we can continue to debate here and there till next kingdom come, but do we really have? Are we able to get a cent? We can't. We have to get people who at least will improve substantially our conditions of living. So, and I believe this government, if you look at the number of houses they have built, I don't know why these things are not coming out, through the voice of the government. So I think, for me, I'm still involved in this national census thing. We are saying we want the diaspora people to vote. It is now that we started enrolling those diaspora. When we have the identity, then the issue of voting can now come to the table for discussion, and it will materialize. So I believe this government, in so many areas, have improved, have done better than they met it. And that is the yardstick that we're looking at. This country is huge. And once we have the restructuring in place, and the state governments can manage their resources, and they can, from there, have their own state police, security problems and security challenge will reduce. And we can begin to see a better Nigeria manifest. And I believe Senator Ahmed Tinubu is the right candidate at this point in time in Nigeria to change the dynamics of what has bedeviled the country.
All right, Senator Arise, you alluded to the term people earlier, and let's shift gears a little bit and look at the term responsibility. As we approach general elections next year, the discourse around electoral discipline also appears to have been intensified over time. Could we get in clear terms from you what exactly this term means, and if it is in fact enough to ensure a rebirth for the country? We've seen a lot of mercantilism and money politics in today's fair. What responsibilities do the electorate have in this regard?
Well, in terms of money politics, I believe INEC is positioned to reduce that significantly. The money politics that we see today is the one they normally refer to as a see and buy. Now, if INEC goes electronic voting, the equipment will be inside that kiosk. You will select who you are voting for or the party you are voting for and come out of the place. It's too late at that time for you to be offering money, because that's what we call black market. You won't know exactly who has voted for you. But right now, it is still so loose that when a person votes and he marks the paper, he just carelessly shows the paper, then he collects money. That, you see, it's one of the most dangerous things that we politicians, maybe we'll be looking at how to resolve. For you to get somebody who is not well positioned, who doesn't have money, but is very good in his society, and for you to get like maybe even a primary school, elementary teacher that is such a good person in his community, to be elevated to maybe the assembly or the rep or senate, it's a daunting task because of the quantum of money required to get these things done. But when you are sure that when you vote, it is not voting due to inducement, and you vote for your conscience, we will continue to make progress. Because there was a time that the order of the day in Nigeria was snatching of ballot paper. And they will just load it with the ballot and go and count. That has been resolved significantly, by almost 90%. But what some people are doing now is, okay, when they cancel it, when they tear the paper, then they take it that election has not held in that place. But if you are voting electronically, the records will be there. And it can, well, we have to ensure that the people at the top are not able to tamper with those results. But it's easy to, you have a copy on your beavers. Maybe the state electoral office will have a copy, then the national. So these are not rocket science. There are things that we have the experience, and we are talking to them, let them do this, let them do that. But that will still have to go to the National Assembly for electronic voting. But what this government has been able to achieve for us in terms of dissemination of information, transmission of information from the polling unit, it's a huge milestone. And it is that gradual movement that we are taking. When we see a problem, we find a way of resolving it. We find a solution to it. And that is what I would say with electronic voting. Many of these problems would actually fizzle out. It's a question of time. But you know, Nigerians are very smart.
All right,
it
Senator.
is not that immediately you do that they will not find a solution. Yeah, thanks.
All right, Senator, before we let you go, because
Yes,
we've got just about a minute or two to wrap up, and I thought that I should quickly ask you this last question. What pathway to victory do you see for the candidate of your party, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, given the fact that the Southwest and the Northwest are important for him? But let's zero down to Southwest, where he's from. How much of support, particularly from his Yoruba folks, do you think he has? Or Afenifere, for example, has just gone into an alliance with the Ohanese to form the Afenifere, movement, which, as you know, endorses Peter Obi. In 2019, Atiku Abubakar, the candidate of PDP, picked Oyo and Ondo State. Oshun has just gone to PDP now, as you are aware, leaving, you with we don't even know how comfortable it is. Lagos, Ogun, and Oshun. So my question is, how much can the Southwest deliver for your candidate, given the fact that Afenifere is emphatic about their own support for Peter Obi?
Well, thank you very much. Afenifere leaders, they are, of course, they are Yoruba people, they are leaders. But the question you want to ask is, beyond 1999, I do not know if Afenifere had been able to install any government in the Southwest. It's, we respect our leaders. They have their own reasons, which individuals could also have. But I'm an APC member, and my own responsibility is to see how they win the election. Now, the pathway in terms of Oshun, Oyo, Yes, Oshun came up with a very popular person in the grassroots, without any doubt. And of course, you know that the likes of Davido that represent the youth soul was there, you know. So invariably, we cannot use that as a measure to say, oh, PDP is popular. Their candidate is popular, and that is very possible in a place like that when you are fighting against an incumbent. Under this federal structure, APC is not re-electing an incumbent. APC is re-electing a candidate that has never been president. Usually when you have an incumbent in place, there are so many enemies within and without that will work and make sure, oh, I didn't get anything from this man. He didn't tie the road to my place. He didn't do this, he didn't do that. But even when you think you have done your bit, you will see that when you make a person a commissioner, you have made about 4, 5, 10, or 20 enemies in place of that one person because they didn't pick those people. So this politics is so funny that the way it works. But when it comes to the presidential election, it is going to be a different ball game in Osun. Ditto in Oyo. It might be possible for you to see in places where, and we've even experienced it, when the governor of Ekiti won, during the presidential election, Jonathan won. So it's, we look at all these things, you know, and wonder how people can ensure that that happens. But I don't think, I'm talking in terms of the number of, the quantum of votes, you know, in Ekiti at that time for the PDP versus the APC state election. So there are plans, campaign. People will go into every household and they will explain to them that this is this man that has held this party, you know, APC, for so long, has supported the party, has grown it to this extent. And they are now asking, he's not going to be the governor of Osun, but he wants to be president of Nigeria. And on the basis of that, there will be some sympathy. And a lot of electoral shift will happen. And that is the responsibility of those who will be handling the campaigns in Oyo and Osun. It's when you look at it critically, because maybe the Southeast en masse will vote for obedient. It's very likely, because we have not grown beyond that sentiment in Nigeria. And the Southwest, yes, Obi might have some votes, but I don't think they will be able to get 25% in each of the states. So all these are dynamics that people are working on and they are looking at. So the challenges are there for everybody to look at and see the way forward.
Well, all right. Thank you very much, Senator Arise, for your contribution on this segment of the morning show.